Dun, 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 dun. Be scared. Be very scared. For Retro Gamer VX now has a mini mainframe in his living room. Well, part of it. I shall call the HAL.
I'm going to take a moment here to mock Retro Gamer VX and his IBM AS400 mini mainframe frame, because that's not really an AS400. This is. I gotta back up just to show the whole damn thing. Okay, yeah, what you had was basically a rack with a drive in it. Here I have, amazingly, two machines. And there's a bit of a story behind this. Both of these showed up at a particular recycling center. And after about 6 months worth of work, it was all transported back up here to CellGen headquarters, where I've been working on it ever since for the last, 2 weeks now. It's all assembled now, stacked up in a bit of an unorthodox way. There's still some wooden blocks here, which I'm using to hold them, stack them up. This is really not how IBM is supposed to, or how IBM probably had these in mind for stacking, but it works. 7 feet tall, weighs 1,100 pounds. It's enormous. This is way bigger than anything I or anybody I know would ever need. And as you can see right now, it's kind of naked, but that's just because I have a lot of the skin panels removed, so we can take a look on the inside. And these are actually two different machines out of the, what was it? Yes, 9406-720 series, which was one of their bigger series. Single processor unit here at the top. We do have a buttload of twin-ax console control cards, WAN card, and I believe there's a 10100 Ethernet card in there. This is the PCI bus controller, and up here is your SSA controller with a whole bunch of Dallas modules here, which are probably containing our serial numbers and our registrations for a lot of the software on here. I don't want to screw with that. CPU module sitting in here. It's a removable pull-out tray with a ridiculous amount of wiring on it, and half a gig of RAM on this thing. It's proprietary RAM. You can't upgrade that. And we go around to the front here, and we do have our front panel. Really nothing all that special about it. MLR tape. Looks like 1/4-inch tape, but it's like a much higher capacity. I believe it's like 25 gigabytes to a tape, which is kind of absurd for those QIC cartridges, since I've only ever seen like 2 gigs tops from a regular CD drive. And then we have these. They look like SCSI discs, and I bet you they are SCSI discs, but they are not SCSI discs. There we go. They're not iSCSI, not SAS, not ESDI, or anything like that. This is SSA, Serial Storage Architecture. This is a very IBM only thing. These drives are very expensive, and I only have 4 of them. All the drives in this machine were unfortunately pulled, and there was a lot of them that used to be in here. But there's more than just the PCI options in this one. Looking to the back of it here, 3 blanking plates. I believe this is our disk controller module here. This is another network interface. I believe this is, it's either tape or DASD control. And this here, as ridiculous as it is, the RJ11 kind of gives it away, this is a fax controller. So either this can receive faxes for some reason and store them, or it can generate and send out faxes like a fax back system or something like that. Not entirely sure. They're still doing some research on that. And here are all the fancy ports in the back of it for it. Twin-ax, twin-ax, twin-ax. I got all the cabling for this. I'll show you that in a minute. Another interface connector here. We have a couple here, which I believe are hardware direct. I still haven't read anything about that. And then we have a ridiculous number of power supplies. Actually, this one here has one for the left side and one for the right side. And then we have the UPS, which is this giant mass sitting down here, and a giant transformer there. 4 12-volt cells. These must be present and must be fully charged when you're working on this. Otherwise, the UPS, which is required for the system to come up, will not turn on. So that's a strange requirement, but yes, you need good batteries. And let's just go over here, actually. Like I said, I do have a lot of cables and stuff that came with it. Like, I'm totally set for the possible peripherals and options here. Like, I even got the balance for this thing. There we go. And yes, like IBM branded. These are fantastic devices. I actually have Twin-X already wired here in the house with that controller I have. And I guess technically one time I can actually go around and wire up terminals if I ever so desire. Actually, now that I think about it, I actually have a lot of the infrastructure I need to run these machines. Like, I've accumulated modems for it all. Like, I have a number of modems that'll work with this. I have terminals. I do have terminal emulation cards. The wiring, like I mentioned before, like, I'm totally set up to do this. But, kind of a surprise I got to this big. Anyways, where were we? Right. So we still have the machine here at the bottom, which we'll start at the front here. Again, we have this ridiculous tape drive on here. We do have 8mm tape. We have CD, and then we have our front panel here, which is a little bit more advanced. Let's get that out of the way for a minute. Processor activity lights, so we can run up to 4 CPUs on this. Huh. Lamp test? Why the hell do we have a lamp test on a completely LED-based front panel? We have this little indent here, which is for this electronic key. And yes, there is actually a pin header on it. There's something special about this key. You cannot run the front panel without the key inserted. There we go. And that will allow you to then do, well, there's various tasks from here, but I'm assuming it also locks out administrative mode, so you have to be physically present with the machine or with the key to do that. There's also this key here, which is for that bezel cover, but I'll talk about that in a little bit later. No drives in this one here. This one here has a ton of SSA drive bays in here. So this one here does have a RAID option or something to that extent. And going around to the side here, bit of a different design. This is now the CPU module here. There's a metal cover that's usually on it. I've taken that off. The RAM is in here. There's a second level here for more RAM. One CPU board in here. Space for a second. Now I know there's 4 CPU indicator lamps on this thing. So as much as I want it to be a 4-core machine, this is probably just a 2-processor machine, which is, I guess, not as impressive, but it's still cool nonetheless. And we do have more bloody UPS. In fact, notice that these ones here are marked OK, and these ones are not. This is very important. These are my only 2 cells. The only way I can get up any of these machines at any given time, I can only get one AS400 working. But this one here, there's not a whole hell of a lot of card options installed. And that is, yeah, there's our Twin-X controller there, PCI controller, and our 10100 controller. And this flex cable here just connects into the CPU cage right here. And there is some foam on it that it's crumbled up and kind of got nasty. Like, there is way the hell back in there. There's a flex cable behind this board that goes in, and that foam is all perished. I had to scrape that out when I reassembled the machine. Again, all the cabling here looks like it's scuzzy. Like, like you have your 68-pin, what looks like ultra scuzzy. It's not. I guarantee you this is SSA. I made the same fatal mistake and almost like literally it was a bad idea. It's all SSA. It's a complete nightmare to get discs for right now. And we go around to the back. While we don't have PCI, we do have an IOP modules. And we'll start over here. I believe this is the RAID controller. We do have this removable battery-backed module here. And I'm assuming that's for your cache backup. Another disk controller right here. And this is all locked in, unfortunately, so I can't pull any of the modules out. We have 2 token ring cards. One of them I can Google up, and it says it's specifically 16 megabytes. I've always been terrible with that. The other one just says token ring. Okay, I don't know anything about it, but it's token ring. Good. We have another DASD controller here, or something to that matter. I really don't know much, a whole hell of a lot about that. I'm still looking into that. We have 3 V.24, was it? Yes, V.24 communications interfaces with these nice metal enclosures, I'd like to point out. They're probably also, are these passively? No. But the airflow in this thing is fantastic. Like, if I can get this back in. There we go. There's a giant blower fan here, and it blows air straight up through the card cage and out of the machine. And again, power supply on this side, UPS, another power supply should be here. Now, if you may have noticed, that power supply is missing, that power supply is missing. They are not identical power supplies. Where are they? They're over here. This one here, Magnatech CPS power supplies are known for having bad capacitor problems, and I'm not surprised about that. These 2 machines here came out were marketed and manufactured in 1999, which puts them right in the bad caps era. They're also known for cold solder joints, and what's happening is that this one comes up briefly, then shuts itself down, and then the system controller panics because only one power supply is running and shuts the whole machine down. This one here is a bit more of a disaster. Let's see if I can get it open. There we go. And if I can get a photo of this. Here's a better photo of it. Yeah, but as you can see, the transformer has melted. Like, it hasn't gone into complete and total thermal meltdown, but it's obviously the core has been oversaturated, and presumably a shorting is winding. A winding in this thing is shorted, because over here I do have a fuse, and this fuse is blown. So this is completely dead. With this power supply dead, I don't even get a front panel on this machine, which really sucks. And now I do have a front panel, a bezel for this one here. Technically it fits this one here, but I only have one. And that frustrates the hell out of me when I found it. I only had this one beautiful bezel here. It actually has, someone's pried the IBM logo off of it right here, so there's just the 4 holes for it mounting. I have the one key. I need to find another one of these, and I'll essentially have all of the front and side pieces. I won't have the back pieces. AS400s, through some strange weird of luck, IBM had these rounded backs to them. And they're nice cable covers. Maybe they're ducting, but they look really nice when they're all assembled because they're really, really pretty. But other than that, yes, I do have all the other panels here. Try not to knock it all over. And the whole thing here assembles with all the exact same type of machine screw. Like, every single screw here is the same size. There are a couple here with like a crosseted, for a crosseted screwdriver, whatever the hell you name it. But no, this is like your savior here, a power drill with a bit attachment on the end, because otherwise you will go insane dismantling and reassembling it. And there's a good like dozen screws just to get this one panel off here. Now, turning the thing on, we already know the power supplies are bad. What about once the power supplies are done? Well, there comes our problem. IBM, being IBM, likes to really put restrictions on who runs their runs their machines in what configurations, and they are very sensitive. They will detect major hardware changes, and they can completely devalidate their all of their licenses and all so forth. Back up here, we do have these, like I meant, we had these Dallas chips up here, Dallas battery backed up chips here. Some of this will contain some of your serialization and registration information. The hard drives will also contain that, which are verified when you IPL. If those batteries have died, it's only going to base itself off of this. And it's going to do an inventory, presumably, of all the hardware in the machine. If I start mix and matching all of this hardware, and then it IPLs, it'll see that there's been a massive hardware change. It might not even be the same system. The serial numbers are different on these machines. And it will invalidate itself, and I will be totally screwed because there is no way to generate these licenses and registration keys outside of IBM. IBM will make them for you, but it requires a service contract. And that's one of the reasons why IBM is so good at doing what they do. Their service contracts will cost a bloody fortune. I think it was with Connor and his mainframe that I think it was like, was it $1,200 a week or a month? But it was a hell of a lot of money for a very basic license. And by the way, I want to point out that no, there is no like DOS or like NT or Unix or no Linux or anything like that. It's AS400 or bust. Likewise, I'd like to point out here, this is not a mainframe. Neither of these are mainframes. They're massive, they are impressive, they are not mainframes at all. These are mini computers, business class level machines, designed for a relatively large number of users and a fairly large amount of processing power, but they are not mainframes. There's a big defining difference there. And just watch Connor Kurowski's, was it Kurowski or Kurosowski's? There's a pretty good video he had right now about how he managed to get his mainframe up and running, and it's a huge difference here. Like, I don't need any external service elements to IPL this, or anything like that. Yeah. And, oh, right. As for software on this thing, once OS 400 is IPL'd and running, like, is there games for this? Is there, like, web servers, like Mathematica or something like that? It's, again, these are business-level machines, so when it comes to your software, it's going to be amazingly boring. payroll accounting, inventory. There may be like 3 or 4 very stupid simple games that'll work in like text modes over the terminals. By the way, none of this here is running ASCII, if I haven't mentioned that before. It'll have EBCDIC, but ASCII is one of those foreign things for one of these machines. So there's a weird level of compatibility, but there's no software. Maybe Apache's available for it. Like, you get a web server, but that's a huge waste of energy and processing power for a web server. Like I said, this is my limit. This is too big. This is way too big. I'll work on this for a bit. If I can get it up, that's going to be cool. I'll add it to the collection because it's massive, absurd, and crazy. If I can't, or really, I just run out of space, it's going to have to go because it's huge. I'd love to get something smaller. There are like better AS400 machines, which are a lot more suited for what I want, which are just like half the size of this. And that's perfect. Like it's big, but that's a lot more convenient for a collector like me. Anyways, so here we have it. 2 720 series AS400s.